Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. So there's two parts to the answer of the first question. The first question being, a tiny percent of the population of the planet owns the vast majority of the wealth. Is there a spiritual understanding, justification for this? The spiritual understanding speaks about ignorance, greed. So it goes like this. It says, the very truth of who we are is divine. We've been created not only by the Creator, but of the Creator. Meaning the same infinite nature of the Creator is the same truth of ourselves. The very core of who we are is full, is whole, is complete, is divine. There's a beautiful mantra that says, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. And it means that, the capital T, that, is infinite, is full, is whole, is complete. And this, which has been removed from, created out of that, is therefore also infinite, whole, complete. It's like saying, what is infinity minus 1? Or infinity minus 10? Or infinity divided by 8 billion? Right? Infinity. So we've been created out of the infinite. Therefore, each of us is infinite. Okay? However, and I'm squeezing together depths of ancient wisdom into a 2-minute answer, so just bear with me here. However, due to ignorance, instead of identifying as the core of who we are, soul, spirit, divinity, truth, we identify as the physical body, which is temporary. It's got a size, a shape, a color, it's got skills and abilities and opportunities and resources and experiences and a history and relationships. And because we identify as this, we believe that it's never enough, right? You can never be beautiful enough, rich enough, successful enough, popular enough. Because we are feeding that which can't actually be full because it's temporary, it's matter. It's degenerating before your eyes. I am literally sitting here degenerating before your eyes. We all are. It's the nature of nature. Put as much gold and diamonds on me as you want, I am still degenerating before your eyes. But in that ignorant identification, we suffer. That is the core of suffering. That is why our spiritual practice is based on getting us out of that identification into the awareness of who we really are. Okay, so that's the spiritual foundation of why is there greed? Because I identify not as that which is full, but I identify as the material body. And I never have enough. Going back to the first question, if what I'm trying to feed is my psyche that's got holes in it, and I don't feel like I'm quite worthy enough or lovable enough or good enough, I could gobble up as much of this world as I want in that race to try to feel finally worthy, finally good enough. And it's not going to work. And this is why, spiritually, the reason behind it is greed, it's ignorance. Now, there's also what we call the law of karma, meaning that in this life, that which I am receiving, the situation I am in, is based on my actions in the past. However, it is not a system of rewards and punishments. It has nothing to do with saying wealth is good, poverty is bad. Health is good, sickness is bad, success is good, failure is bad. The universe doesn't have any of those labels. The only agenda that the law of karma has is that eventually we will break free from the cycle of karma, that we will actually wake up to the truth of who we are. Always full, always whole, one with the divine, never separate, never lacking in any way. Not this body. And so the cycle of karma gives us both the results of our actions as well as those situations and circumstances that are the most conducive for each of us taking the next step closer to God. And so a lot of times people say things like, what did this child do who is dying of AIDS, of cancer, of this? I mean, what could a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 6-year-old, what could they possibly have done according to a law of karma to deserve this? But the law of karma is actually much deeper than that. So it would say longevity is not the highest goal. The highest goal is freedom. And so maybe in that case, this child who we see as an awful tragedy of dying at a year or 2, well, maybe this child in their past life was this close to full liberation, to not needing to take another body, to not needing to come back. But just there were a few remaining karmic threads that needed to be worked out. And this child was able to finish those karmas in a year, in 2 years, in 6 years. And so it looks at the situation not from the goal of thou shalt be as wealthy, as healthy, as successful, as long life as possible, but rather thou shalt wake up and realize the truth of who you are. Within that, the tragedy becomes that we take it as a static system. So I see someone who is hungry and poor, and in my ignorance I say, oh, that must be their karma. Therefore, it's not my place to intervene, or I don't need to intervene. It's not my responsibility to intervene, because see, that's their karma. But that's ignorance. Because that's me looking at it like it's a static frame, as though somehow I were separate from that person, but I'm not. Yes, they are where they are because of their karmic journey, but I am where I am, noticing them, seeing them, having the resources to help them because of my karmic journey. And so where they are at this moment is their karmic journey. But my choice to help them is my karmic journey. And if I don't make that choice, then I'm making a very clear decision in favor of what we would call bad karma. Because to not act is to act. To be able to help someone and not help them is an action. And so we're really clear that, yeah, we believe in karma. And what we believe is that if we've got the resources and the ability to help, and the compassion and the love and the wisdom and the ability and the innovation to help, that is our dharma, to help. And that's why, going into your second question in terms of what do we do, that's a very, very long list. What I would say is, on your way out, there's a table of information. Take it. You can see our websites. We're doing a lot of work in the fields of education, gender equality, women's empowerment, helping the sick, environmental protection, feeding the poor, taking care of youngsters residentially, non-residentially, poor children, orphaned children, disadvantaged in any way, boys, girls, in so many different ways, taking care of Mother Earth in whatever way we can. And just in conclusion about this is actually where, for me, on a really personal level, I spend a lot of my time doing spiritual teaching, whether it's sitting here, whether it's traveling and speaking, whether it's writing, whether it's online. And one of the core reasons I do it is that, in addition to feeling very, very blessed to be used as an instrument, to be able, in whatever small way I am, to bring wisdom, inspiration, healing to people, what I also know is that people who are happy, peaceful, spiritually grounded and anchored and connected are actually assets to Mother Earth, because they are the people who don't need to go out for shopping therapy or eating therapy or drinking therapy, or suppressing or oppressing someone else's therapy in order to feel better. They are the people who are living simply so that others may simply live. They're not needing to gobble up the earth's resources in order to feel okay about themselves. They're moving through the planet with an awareness of oneness and connection. And so it feels to me like a really great privilege to be able to help in whatever way I can, have people find their own inner light, inner truth, inner joy, inner peace, so that A, they can find the purpose of their lives, but B, so that they actually can be nicer, more caring, more generous humans on earth.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going Om. My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. We, the common people, live with so much stress and depression, and you look so peaceful. What do we do? How do we get there? Stress is the response to believing that that which I want to happen isn't happening or isn't going to happen in the future. In this moment, jo main chahti hu nahi ho raha hai. Therefore, I am stressed. What I want is not happening. I'm stressed or depressed, depending on how I'm internalizing it, how much agency I feel in any way to change it. That which I want to happen in the future, I am worried it won't happen in the future. Stressed about the future. But you realize it's all about what I want to happen. The easiest way out of stress is to let go of the expectations. If I'm in Delhi a lot. I don't like to be in Delhi, but I find myself in Delhi a lot just for different programs and events and whatnot. And one of the phenomena that I've noticed is very interesting. There'll be a program or a meeting, some kind of an event that, let's say it starts at 7 o'clock. Everyone, or 99% of people, show up to that meeting or event or program at 7:30, 7:45, 8, 8:15, 8:30 with, oh my God, the traffic. Now, you think you live here. It's a city full of traffic. Yes, it should only be a half an hour drive, and people will say, "Wo to bas aadha ghante ki rasta hai, it's just a half an hour drive." Today it took an hour and a half. And you say, well, it's a half hour drive if you did it at 2 in the morning. But if you expect that at 6 p.m. in the evening you're going to make it in half an hour, you're going to be stressed. Because you've had an unreasonable expectation. And then in the car, everybody's yelling at everybody, it's your fault, we're late, your fault, because we had a very unreasonable expectation, which was that somehow the streets of Delhi should part for us to be able to make it through. And they didn't. So we are stressed. The secret to peace is letting go of expectations. It's not resignation. It's not that you've given up. It's not that I don't have any hope. It's nothing like that. It's just an awareness that, in general, expectations are not met. Therefore, I have two choices. Hold on to those expectations and be stressed or angry, or let go of those expectations and be peaceful. Somebody says they're going to do something for you, they don't do it, okay. Well, if I had been really attached and really, really expecting it, you get angry. How dare you not do it? You told me you were going to do it. You promised. So we're stressed, we're depressed. But if you allow for the possibility that that which you expect might not happen, that actually the world is not your puppet. And every single person, it's not that people want to let you down. It's not that they're trying to disappoint you. They're not trying to cause you stress and depression. They're just all living and navigating their own karmic journeys. And their role here is not keep you calm and happy. There's not one person on this earth who came onto earth with a stamp on their rear end that said, your dharma is keep this woman calm and happy. Everybody's got their own dharma, their own karmic package. We're all intersecting. But as long as my emotional state is hooked into other people's actions, I'm going to be stressed that they won't do what I want. And I'm going to be either angry or depressed when it turns out that I'm right and they didn't. So why bother? Learn acceptance. Learn unconditional love. So it doesn't mean that we disconnect from the world. And of course, by the way, it's impossible to live without any expectations. We have them. We have an expectation as we do Arti, for example, that Ganga is not going to suddenly rise up in a flood and sweep us all off, or we wouldn't be able to do Arti. We have an expectation anytime we walk into a building or a home that the contractor who built that building did so sincerely, professionally, and that the roof is not going to fall upon us. Otherwise, we would never be able to walk into any building. We have an expectation when we go to sleep at night that when we wake up in the morning, our loved ones are still going to be there, that they're not going to die overnight, that we're not going to die overnight, that our house isn't going to burn down overnight. Otherwise, we'd never be able to fall asleep. So you have to have some degree of expectation. In relationship, we have to, of course, expect that people are going to act with honesty, with kindness, with caring. We have to have some level of that expectation. But we hold all of those expectations with the awareness that ultimately we don't actually have any control over it. The only thing we have control over is our own reaction. Because there will be times when what you expect doesn't happen. And the question is how you react. There was a beautiful, beautiful saint who has since passed away named Swami Dayanandji Maharaj, who used to live just across Ganga in Rishikesh. And he said, I don't care how much money you make. The only definition of success, someone had asked him about success and its definition. He said the only definition of success that means anything is how you respond to the inevitable times. Inevitable means it's gonna happen. The inevitable times that the universe does not act the way you think it should. That is how we should be judging our success. Not by the positions or the titles or anything like that. But when what I want doesn't happen, or what I don't want does happen, because remember, it's inevitable. Not every time, but sometimes. How do I respond? That response is the meter I use to decide, am I successful? And along with that, you become peaceful. So it's actually very simple. Jab tak मेरी भीतर की स्वस्थिति जो है, जब तक बाहर की स्थिति, परिस्थिति के ऊपर डिपेंड करते हैं, तो फिर मैं स्ट्रेस रहूंगी, क्योंकि परिस्थिति जो है ऊपर नीचे जाती रहता है. लोग तो करते ही जो करेंगे, लेकिन मेरी स्वस्थिति जो है वो तो मेरे ऊपर है, किसी और के ऊपर नहीं होना चाहिए. तो हमें ऐसे अनुभव होना चाहिए कि दूसरों के ऊपर मेरा कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है. ना स्टॉक मार्केट, ना वेदर, वो कंट्रोल नहीं है. एक ही चीज है जिसके ऊपर मेरा कंट्रोल है, स्वस्थिति. So let us use that ability and make our internal situation something that's peaceful. You know, for me, on a personal level, I find myself always asking myself, things will happen, I say, I've trained myself over the years. I used to just react. And now I find myself literally saying to myself, is this worth losing your peace over? Is it worth it? Every once in a while, something is. Every once in a while, there really is something that you think, yeah, you know what? I need to be upset about this. Or yeah, you know what? This is not okay. But the vast, overwhelming majority of the times, I say it's not worth it. And even in the times when it is worth it, you don't lose yourself. It's just you recognize this is a situation that needs to be changed. But you're still not lost, not drowning in stress or anger or depression.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them?
Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. Send you home with some ways of believing. So here's the first important part. As my guru Puja Swamiji always says, don't worry if you don't believe in God. God believes in you. But you said, I believe in universal energy, and I believe in spirituality. Now, spirituality itself, the very definition of spirituality means pertaining to spirit, of spirit. Now, there's 2 aspects to us. There's that which is always changing, the physical aspect of who we are, both the matter and the energy, the particles and the waves. So everything ranging from my actual bones and muscles to the electricity that is coursing down the axons of my neurons, making my whole nervous system happen. It's energy and it's matter. But they're both part of what we would call the physical body. Constantly changing. Born, change, die. Okay. That is the, in short, pathway of what happens to the physical body. But then you've got an aspect that doesn't change. And that's what we call spirit. If you believe in universal energy, well, that universal energy is that which is unchanging. When you see a volcano erupt, for example, you see lava come up out of the ground. I was in Iceland this summer in August, and for the first time ever actually stood right over a volcano that was erupting, and it was one of the most powerful moments of my life to just see the earth literally open and spew her energy into the air. But it's clear when you see that what we're seeing is not what I would call an unchanging spirit. We see something that is part of nature. Things are like human beings. Things are born, they die. A tree sprouts, it grows, it gives fruit. Year after year, eventually the tree dies. Okay? It's the nature of nature. The volcano erupts, the lava pours out, eventually the lava hardens into lava rocks, eventually the volcano stops erupting. Change, constant change. When we talk about a universal energy, there is an understanding that what we're talking about is something that is much more eternal than simply a volcano erupting or a tree growing and then dying. What we're talking about is what we call spirit. It flows through you, it flows through me. You could chop off my arm, it would still flow through me. You could chop off my other arm, it would still flow through me. You could chop off my legs, it would still flow through me. You could chop off every bit of me and it wouldn't touch the spirit or the universal energy that was flowing through me. Right? You believe all of this, right? I'm using your words, okay? When you believe in that, this is what we mean by God. God doesn't necessarily mean some old man with a long white beard sitting somewhere off in heaven who is watching you and punishing you for your mistakes and rewarding you for your good deeds. You know, a lot of us, especially Western religious traditions, have this sense of kind of an old man, long white beard, a staff, somewhere watching us. Well, that's certainly one way of thinking about God. God is infinite. There's no reason God couldn't also be an old man with a long beard, because it's infinite energy. So there's infinite possibilities. But God isn't only that. There's an infinite number of other ways of connecting to, conceiving of the divine. It's like water is flowing. Now, one form of water is the water in this glass. Not because the water has the form, but because it has flown into a glass that has form. So it's taken the form of this glass. As the divine energy is in different forms, we can experience that divine in different ways. Different religions have different ways of understanding this. But you don't have to necessarily buy into any of them. It doesn't matter. As long as you understand this universal energy that you talk about, this concept of spirit, that there really ultimately is no place you end and I begin. The world of material vision says you are over there, I am over here, there is empty space between us. Spirituality says you are spirit, I am spirit. There is no empty space between us. There is no place you end and I begin. We are interwoven. We are connected. You feel people's energy, right? Even when we just say things like, oh, I got really bad vibes from that person. Or that person's got a really good energy. What does that mean? We're able to feel it. Even when you don't touch them. I can only feel your bones and muscles if I touch you. Can't feel them from over here. But when we talk about your energy, what is that? On some level, my spirit is connecting to your spirit. And it's a lot deeper than good vibes and bad vibes, of course, but we're connecting on a very deep level. Because there is no place that we are separate. That is spirituality. Do you have a name for the divine? Great. Chances are you subscribe to a religious tradition in that case. Do you not have a name for the divine? No problem. You don't need to subscribe to an organized religious tradition in order to be spiritual. You just have to recognize that there is more to you than your bones and your muscles and your blood and the electricity running down your neurons. Something that doesn't change, something that isn't separate from the trees, from the sunrise, from the sunsets, from other beings. That's the divine in you. Because your body's going to die. In the same way that it keeps changing now, eventually it's going to change to ash. What is it that stays? Spirit. Soul. Divinity. Doesn't matter what word you use. That's a way of conceiving and understanding of God. So connect in that way. Connect to that powerful energy that exists. Use whatever word you want, it doesn't matter. Just because religious traditions for thousands and thousands of years have operationalized God to run societies, to keep people in line, to scare people, to give them ways of understanding things. Just because God has been operationalized doesn't mean God doesn't exist. You may not buy into the way that organizations have operationalized God in religion. But don't discount the presence of God just because of that.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rain.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
How do I gracefully avoid drama and gossip? The first part is in the mind, and then the second part is in our society, our friend circle. We engage in it because on some level we like it. There's something in us that gets a little bit of a high when we hear or share something negative about somebody else. It's a very cheap high, and it doesn't last very long. And it doesn't leave you feeling very good afterwards. But for people addicted to cheap highs, it's an easy way to get there. Because if I'm feeling on any level negative about myself, what I look like, how much I make, the status of my career, the status of my relationships, any level that I might judge myself on, especially if I'm not really looking at that feeling that I'm having, if I can listen to somebody talk trash about somebody else, it's just a bit of that, I'm better than they are. And just for a moment, I forget that I feel badly about myself because I'm better than that person. It's also a really cheap way, and not a meaningful way at all, of bonding between people. You'll notice if you're sitting with someone, a friend or a colleague, an acquaintance, if there isn't something to say and you feel uncomfortable about the fact that there isn't something to say, one of the quickest and easiest and cheapest ways to establish a seemingly friendly connection is to say, oh my God, did you hear about so-and-so? Couldn't believe it. So in order to stop engaging in it in the world around me, I have to actually stop liking it on the inside. And I think about it personally in the same way that I think about things like pizza or ice cream or chocolate or stuff that gives you a very temporary, sensory, pleasurable experience through chemicals that are being released in the brain. The brain goes, ah. But A, it lasts very short, and B, you always feel kind of gross afterwards. It doesn't leave you feeling good. It's just a very quick high. And then you feel blech. And as we look, as we embark on spiritual paths or even just paths of wellness, we learn to say no to foods, no matter how good they may taste in the moment, that make us feel blech afterwards. And the way to do it is when you smell that pizza or you see the chocolate, immediately the mind should start thinking about, how am I going to feel an hour from now? Or how am I going to feel later tonight or tomorrow morning when I wake up with pizza in my stomach? And it's usually enough to keep you from indulging if you can really remember how it feels afterwards. And it's the same with this kind of cheap talk, junk talk, you could say. We've got junk food and then junk talk. Is when you're just about to engage in it, ask yourself, how are you going to feel after this conversation? Yeah, you might have this temporary, cheap high, cheap experience of closeness that doesn't actually exist. How are you going to feel in an hour? How are you going to feel tomorrow morning when you wake up and remember what junk and trash you were part of? Because not only did you put it into the universe, but you took it inside yourself. And on an energetic level, it feels blech. I mean, it feels the same way, like if you eat too much pizza or too much ice cream or too much chocolate. So this is where the technique and the path of awareness and mindfulness comes in, that I'm aware not just of my taste buds in this moment, or the dopamine coming out of my neurons in this moment, pattern in my brain that it catalyzes, but I'm actually aware of myself on a deeper level, and I'm aware of how in alignment or not in alignment that which I'm saying or listening to or laughing at or oh my godding at, is that actually in alignment with who I am? Is that going to digest well? Am I going to sleep well with that in my stomach? And we know the answer is no. And so we learn before engaging in it to literally just say no. So once in your mind you've realized, I don't want to go there, then in your social circle, as people start talking like that, you can feel free to say things like, I'm on a no gossip diet. You can be cute about it, or you can be really deep. I've noticed that this type of talk doesn't digest well, doesn't feel good. It's not really in alignment with what I'm looking to bring into the world, which is peace and happiness. Like, I'm looking to make people happy. I'm looking to spread peace, to spread light. This isn't helping us. It's certainly not helping the person we're talking about. It's certainly not helping the world. So you can either really explain it to them or just be cute. I'm on a no gossip diet. Could we make this a gossip-free zone? I'm having my gossip fast today. Let me know tomorrow. Wednesday's my gossip fast. You know, whatever you need to say. You develop ways of extricating yourself from situations, because we don't always have to feel like we have to teach everybody around us. A lot of times people are not interested in being taught by us. And it's really just about, how can I gracefully get out of the situation? I don't need to be their guru. I don't need to be a teacher. I don't need to give them a book about why I'm not gossiping. I just need to extricate myself from the moment in such a way that they don't feel like I've insulted them. And I'm out of a situation I want to be out of. And you'll develop your own way. It's similar to techniques that we use, those of us who don't drink or do drugs, or, to get out of those situations. I remember when I was an undergrad at university, I hated fraternity parties. But living in a dorm, that was the thing that everybody did, was you went to frat parties. And I hated them. It wasn't that I was antisocial. There was something about the crowds and the absolute lack of any kind of real connection, and just the chaos of it. But I was, 17, 18, however old I was, my first year in university, and you wanted to be liked, and the last thing you wanted was for people to think that there was something wrong with you. And so I developed a little cute way. I would say to people, I don't want to go because I can't stand the smell of beer on my clothes. And at those parties, everybody always spills beer, and it gets on my clothes, and it stinks, and I don't like it. And inevitably, people would always say, oh, it's not going to be like one of those parties. Right? It's not going to be like that. You just come. And so I would go. And inevitably, within the first 5-7 minutes, I would figure out how to position myself next to somebody who looked like they were just on the verge of knocking over their cup of beer. And I would manage to get it spilled on me, and I would be able to say to my friends, look, it's my bad luck, I guess, always happens to me. I've got to go back and change my clothes. I'll see you later. And I share that because it was it took me a while to figure out how to do it. I was very troubled in the beginning. But I developed this, and it worked quite well, and I held on to it throughout university because it was a way of feeling friendly. I wasn't saying I don't like those parties. I wasn't saying I'm better than you are. I wasn't giving them some kind of a lecture. It was cute. It was social. And yet it worked. Managed to get me out. Nobody ever felt badly about it. And in the same way, as you deepen on your spiritual path, you're going to develop ways to just gently, gracefully get out of situations that no longer work for you. And whether it's certain types of parties, whether it's certain types of activities, whether it's certain types of conversations, certain types of movies, you're gonna figure it out. But you need to make sure that you want out. And once you're sure of that, then just come up with creative ways. What can you say that'll let people laugh, they don't feel insulted, but you get out of it? You may even be able to just make up that you've got to go somewhere. But if it keeps happening with the same people, just let them know, that you've discovered that it doesn't digest well. You may want to go a little bit deeper and more honest and say, I've actually decided I'm taking a vow against gossip. Or the proactive, the positive way. I've taken a vow toward positivity. I'm going to see how many days I can go in a row without saying anything negative. Would you be my accountability partner? Right? So you haven't put them down. You haven't made them feel bad. And you may actually be able to get them to do it along with you. Once we realize that all of that negativity just makes us feel blah, like junk food, and then you'll find your way out.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time on Om Times Radio.